You're in coal very strongly. You're spending 20 billion over the next 5 years on expanding your coal. But you also got a new goal, and that is to look at the more technical digital efforts. And you're spending something like 900 million over 5 years, more moderate. How are you going to combine these two? And please give us a word picture on both.
For a company like ours to remain globally competitive in the markets that we are playing into, we are competing with companies which have long adopted some of these technologies as part of driving their efficiencies, productivity, and also trying to create a serious step change in terms of their businesses. And if you just look, at the drive in South Africa, driven by the chamber in terms of some of the imperatives for mining to continue being sustainable into the future, the whole thing about modernization, which basically talks to innovation, becomes an imperative for us to remain competitive. And also really start exploiting those assets and resources which, we couldn't do in the past because of the safety issues. So we see it as an imperative, and we will be, over the period of time, being sure that we bring in these tools, these technologies, and embed them into our business, not just only in the operations, but into our whole total business, to ensure that we can drive these productivity levels and the cost benefits that we're going to get out of this.
And you're also looking at food security, and you're looking at water security and things that are in renewable energy space. Now, tell us about how you're going to mesh that with the backbone being coal and what you're doing in coal, spending a lot of money.
Well, I think you almost have to see this thing as being two different drives. You've got a very good, solid, and a very growing business of today, which is really on the bedrock being coal. But at the same time, we are saying that the world is going to be challenged with big critical things, not only now, but going into the future. With a growing population that we are going to be seeing, global population, the need to be able to address socio issues is going to be that much more of an imperative going into the future. But in that also lies the opportunity, business opportunity, to be able to also create new revenue streams. We've got a lot of land, by example, but this land is just being utilized. Currently, the country has got this whole issue about land that is just sitting there, not being utilized. And the big issue in South Africa is that how do you take that land and actually start, in a positive way, transform that land as part of a whole new agri-economy that can be created. So these are the things that we started a long time ago, started to think about and actively playing into that space. But what we are not saying is that we're going to be farmers. We're not going to be farmers, but we're going to be the catalyst and be able to come up with platforms that can facilitate a new agri-economy.
And the winds of political change are blowing. What do you expect to see that will help the mining industry?
The new environment that we find ourselves in is an environment that we as South Africans need to appreciate, because we really were at the close of the abyss. But the requirements and the challenges of this country are going to require everybody to play their part. All businesses have got to play their part. And therefore, when you talk to not only us as a company, when you talk to the chamber, when you talk to BLSA, when you talk to BUSA, we're all talking about one and the same thing. And that is about how do we actually get our country back into the right trajectory? How do we deal with the disparities of inequality and abject poverty? How do we deal with the high unemployment of the youth, plus 50%? And therefore, when you start looking at all of these things, we are almost requested of us by the state president to say, join me in actually addressing these issues. So we are very positive about how we should be playing a part, not only as Exxaro, but as broader business. And we see this thing actually as an imperative for the country, because if we don't address these things, we're going to really create a social discourse to the extent that it can actually be counterproductive and it can actually be a force against the current businesses that we have created today. So we are very positive about playing a role as Exxaro. We are looking at the opportunities, how we can put part of this YES initiative, which is the Youth Employment Services Initiative. But we're also looking at it with a lens. We say, how can we then also marry that with our ESD strategy, which is the Enterprise Supply Development Strategy, and then bring these two things together to create new opportunities for the youth, and actually at the same time contributing to the economy.
How has the wind of change improved your relationship with Eskom, an important customer?
It's like a breath of fresh air, if I can say that. I mean, for the longest, as you can recall, that we've not had the best of relationships with Eskom as being their biggest supplier of coal. Today we are having an Eskom with a new board, a very credible board, comprising also of good business people. So we are beginning to have a good dialogue. And the truth of the matter is that Eskom is in trouble in terms of coal, because there is a shortage of coal, given the fact that what we are seeing happening with Tegeta. Today you are in a situation whereby Eskom has to ensure that it has got sustainable coal source coming to it at the right price, at the right qualities. And yes, I'm not saying that transformation is not important. It's critically important, but also stability of Eskom is very important. And we are there to be able to support Eskom in whatever ways that also we can, in terms of what Nomasa and her team are able to do.